Ready. Okay, I would like to call this meeting to order and recognize that we are happy to have the opportunity to govern on the unceded lands of the Comox Nation, and we are grateful for their care and stewardship of this land since time immemorial. Can I please have a motion to approve the agenda with the on-table item?
I'll make a motion that council approve the agenda for the January 23rd, 2023 regular council meeting.
With the inclusion of late item 7.3.
Yes, please, sorry.
Second, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. And minutes, adoption of the minutes.
Move adoption of minutes from the Committee of the Whole, December 2nd, 2022, and the regular council meeting, January 9th, 2023, and from the Accessibility and Inclusion Select Committee from November 21st, 2022.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. And we have a delegation, very exciting delegation from the Beaufort Family Health Society. I'm going to get that name down.
Do we have to make a recommendation to
Sure, we could do that now.
recommend that council? I'll make a motion to recommend that council receive the delegation of Janet Punakura Family Health Society regarding the nonprofit family health clinic.
Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Sorry, Janet.
Thank you so much for being here, Janet, and your fellow board members.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'll make sure I speak into this in case there's anybody online. So thank you. We're excited to be here to tell you a bit about what we're doing and what our plans are, and to ask you something as well. So we have a brief, short presentation that will provide you an overview of who we are, what we're doing, how to connect with us, and give you some context for what we're planning. So our board, we're all here tonight. So Linda, Roger, Keith, and Emma are here sitting in the audience. And we also have our startup project manager, Tiffany, is sitting here with us as well. We are all Cumberland residents and happy to be here. We are a volunteer board. The Beaufort Family Health Society was established in April of last year, and we are aiming to open and operate an interdisciplinary family medical practice in Cumberland. We have received confirmation of funding from the ministry for up to 5 practitioners, which is wonderful. This is a little bit unusual for them to fund us so quickly, and I think a lot of that has been from the support of the municipality over the past year. We will, with a full patient complement, serve up to 5,500 patients. So that is more people than live in Cumberland. The clinic space that we're looking at is the current existing clinic space that formerly housed the Ginger Goodwin Medical Clinic. It's a purpose-built, lovely facility. If you haven't been up there, it's absolutely wonderful. We have not yet completed a lease on this space. We're still in the process of ensuring that we meet our feasibility requirements financially. This is a beautiful space, and it's wonderful to attract and retain practitioners and staff to come to and stay in Cumberland. That is one of the biggest challenges that practitioners have in the Comox Valley and other areas of BC, is helping them stay. So this will likely be one of the nicest medical clinics around. Happy to have it here. It will serve the entire Comox Valley, so we cannot restrict it just to Cumberland patients. So it will be open to patients of other municipalities in the area. And we will be, there are some geographic restrictions around that, but it is the entire Comox Valley it will serve. We are a non-profit society, so unlike a regular medical clinic with practitioner-owned private practices, we will not be distributing any profits. We are not anticipating any profits, but we will not be distributing any to our members or directors, and will remain a volunteer board. Community-led in that we are run by a board, so the employees of the clinic will be our employees and report directly to the board, which is a bit different than a regular medical practice. We anticipate an interdisciplinary team approach. So this means we will have doctors, nurse practitioners, and I'll get into that in a moment about other kinds of practitioners that will be using our space. And we aim to serve the whole family. So everything from newborns to the elderly. We will be inclusive of care for all ages. We're pursuing a designation called a community health center. This may provide us with a bit more funding, but the nature of a community health center is a nonprofit community governed entity. So there are 40, 50 of these elsewhere in the province, and something that may get more uptake over time. The closest one to us right now is Hornby Denman, and they run a community-based healthcare clinic there, also not for profit. So we've got a network of other clinics that are operating this way around us. But our intention is to provide that collaborative wraparound approach to patient care, not just prescriptions one and done. So your entire healthcare picture dealt with by a range of practitioners. So family physicians, or just doctors or GPs as you might call them, nurse practitioners, which are much more qualified than licensed practical nurses or registered nurses. They can do quite a bit that a doctor can do. So is it relatively newer development in BC and Canada that nurse practitioners are running practices of their own now. So we intend to have a mix of family practitioners, nurse practitioners. We will have a registered nurse working out of our facility. And then through the regional patient care network, we will have access to these other range of individuals. So mental health, social work, physiotherapists, clinical pharmacists, Indigenous wellness advocates, etc. So those needs will be determined as the patient population presents itself and determines what the needs are. But we have access to those practitioners that are currently already in place and employed through the private patient care network. So patients, we have a lovely tool in the Comox Valley that is now being extended across the province called a Health Connect registry. So this is a wait list for all patients, and we will be pulling off of this wait list. So if anybody wants a doctor, needs a doctor, they should already be registered on this network. If they are not, we highly encourage them to. We have taken out an ad in the upcoming currently Cumberland to encourage people to register on the Health Connect registry. We have been working with the registry to identify a way to prioritize Cumberland residents that do not have a primary care practitioner already. And over time, we will likely be expecting that people may want to shift their healthcare provider to Cumberland, but we will be pulling off the registry in order for that. So we will be communicating this, but this means we will not be accepting patients who walk into the clinic. It will not be a walk-in clinic. We call those an urgent patient care center. It will not be one of those. So some milestones for our society. We established the society. We have secured funding. We are waiting for those final agreements to come through, but the big hurdle of having ministerial approval has happened. Waiting for the money to hit our bank accounts. Setting up the clinic, we're currently in the process of that, so we're happy to have Tiffany on board as our startup project manager. She's currently supporting us with everything related to getting that clinic open and bringing in all the medical equipment that is not there currently. Putting in place all of our lovely things, insurance, accounting, bookkeeping, all of our service providers. So we're starting a business from the ground up. Tiffany is our person. Thank you.
No pressure.
We are ready to recruit for staff and practitioners. We are just waiting on those final contracts from the ministry to be signed and finishing lease negotiations and proving our financial sustainability. But we are so close and ready to go, just waiting on a few things. Once we have our practitioners in place, we'll pull off the Health Connect registry and begin calling people likely within that week to schedule appointments. So pretty quick. We anticipate early, best case scenario, spring 2023. We're shooting for that. We'll see what happens. So this is something coming up pretty quick here, but we're excited for that. So we do have an ask. As we're going through this due diligence process of understanding our costs for our clinic, we understand there will be a funding gap. So we are projecting a deficit budget somewhere between $25,000 to $200,000 per year. And that will decrease over time as we bring more practitioners on. The way we get funded is we get a percentage of overhead of our practitioner salaries, and we have to work with that to pay all of our operating expenses. Those expenses are higher in this location because we have a brand new, lovely, purpose-built clinic that will be helpful at attracting new practitioners and staff. That is part of it, but other costs for things like insurance, lots of other operating costs. So we are asking or requesting that council consider making a change to its bylaw, financial planning bylaw, to enable property tax exemptions for not-for-profits that are not on municipal land. Other municipalities in the region do have more lenient bylaws that include that. So what we'd like to do is just summarize our ask in a letter to the village and potentially discuss with staff further about what council's interest might be in supporting us with that. That would help us demonstrate to our ministerial funders and other potential grant and fundraising bodies that might choose to support us in our deficit funding. It would help to show municipal support for this initiative.
That would be in-kind support, not financial directly.
It would be, yes, so it would be in kind. You just wouldn't charge us property tax on the clinic portion of the building and land. So right now the full property tax bill average the last 3 years was about $40,000 for that property. The clinic portion would be about $20,000. So we'd like to just detail that, make sure we're accurate, and submit something that demonstrates our financial hardship and request for council support. So lots of ways to connect with us. Building our infrastructure, but the best way is through our email, reaches all of our board members and Tiffany. And if there are any questions, I'd love to take them.
Thank you so much, Janet. And I do just want to give a shout out to former Mayor Leslie Baird, who was instrumental in both getting the board set up and I understand also getting your funding. I think there was a visit with the Minister of Health that was unexpected and a great opportunity. And so thank you so much to her and her hard work on this file. And thank you all for taking it on and continuing. And yeah, Council, questions? Councillor Kettler?
Thanks. Yeah, I'm so happy to see this come forward, and thank you to all the board members and everybody who's worked on it so far. And yeah, a shout out to former Mayor Baird and all her work as well. I'm on the registry myself, so it's, I think everywhere is suffering from a lack of physicians, but Cumberland in particular has, as we've had two clinics close over the last 2 terms that I've been around, and I think it's very difficult for the people of Cumberland to deal with that, to deal with the constant loss of their GPs. So, but I'm also happy to see that the range of health services that are going to be provided here. That's wonderful. Back to the registry. So if someone like myself had put in maybe like 2 years ago or something like that, are we just waiting because we don't hear anything back? Are you expecting that people should re-register, or how does that work?
Don't re-register. It'll mess you up on the list.
Okay.
Hopefully they pick that up and don't
That's
put
probably
you
good
at the
to get out
bottom
there,
of
though,
the
that,
line.
that you shouldn't re-register.
We'll double check.
Yeah. Okay.
Because who knows if we all remember if we registered or not. It was such a quick process. So I will check that. We have the ability to pull Cumberland residents off first. So they're actually holding Cumberland residents for us for the next couple of months. If it goes beyond that, then they're going to allocate them to a healthcare provider elsewhere in the Comox Valley. So
Okay.
I think you can also phone the registry and ask them where you are on the list.
Okay.
Someone told
You
me.
can.
I got.
Yep.
I,
Yep.
You
Okay,
can
that's
do that.
good to know as well. Just to staff about, so we were also talking about property tax exemption for other purposes like affordable housing, and that might take a while to get back to us. In the meantime, is there an option to maybe take funds from host amenity to cover the 20,000?
Well, we do have to look in the host amenity for some ways to build that balance back up if you wanted to use it, because it is low after the budget meeting. But yes, there is funds that we could look for council if they wish to do it that way. Like if you wanted to provide that, yeah, you could direct us to come back with some options.
Because the turnaround for us changing our bylaw for property tax exemption is what?
So for 2023, there is no option to permissively exempt any taxes. That should have been done before October of 2022. So your next chance is by October for 2024. So yes, if you did want to assist in 2023 taxes, then it would be your own funding source.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councillor Brecky?
I just was wondering, what's the funding model as far as the practitioners go? Like the doctors or nurse practitioners would be charged least a space in there, and that's how you cover it.
I'll explain. Yeah.
Okay, I'm curious.
I'll
how
try
that
the quick version.
goes.
So the ministry directly enters into a contract with the practitioner, and the society is a third party to that contract. So the ministry pays the practitioner their salary and pays the society through the practitioner a set overhead amount. So the practitioners are not our employees. Staff will be our employees. The money that does come through is really a set contract amount. There's a set salary with a set overhead figure. That is what the contracts we're eligible for are called new to practice. There's lots about them in the news lately. But it is a set fee amount that comes. So we will be party to the contracts with the practitioners that come in. So we will be involved in hiring them, recruiting them, choosing the right fit for our clinic, and choosing the right team that works together. But we will not be subletting our space or leasing our space to third-party practitioners. So all of them will be under contract to us, or we will be party to a contract.
So it'll be always fixed. You have no opportunity to, let's say, you're a little short 1 year, you can't suddenly change your lease space. So it's pretty much a set fee set by the ministry, is it?
It's a set fee, yes. Okay. We'd have no opportunity to negotiate on revenue with the ministry. We have lots of opportunity to look at grant funding. Most of them are quite small amounts, $1,500 here and there. We have some opportunity as a community health center, as a CHC, to obtain some additional funding, but we're not there yet. We don't meet the criteria for that just yet, but we're working towards it. And if and once we have that in place and our operating costs remain stable, then we anticipate being financially feasible in the future.
Thank you for clarifying.
Councillor Thurin?
So eventually it does pay for itself.
Ideally.
And what is that dependent on? Enough customers, patients?
Not so much patients, no. As we ramp up, so we anticipate bringing on 2 to 2.5 practitioners in the first year, and then bringing on another 2.5 in future years. So we only get the portion of overhead for the practitioners that are actually working at the time. So we can request from the ministry that they advance overhead payments for practitioners that have not yet been located or hired. That's up to them to decide to do that or not. It's really our choice. If we want to operate a clinic that is more financially feasible, we would likely need to find an older building in a different community to do that. Big difference. And then having a society operate the clinic instead of a private practitioner means we have another layer of accountability and risk and insurance that we need to put in place, which substantially increases our insurance costs. So we'd be happy to detail what some of the unusual expenses are that we might have that a private practice might not, but the benefit of having a more sustainable business model in the community for the long term, being run by a community-oriented society and a volunteer board, I think gives the stability for that additional cost.
If the doctor just moves away, you just
the
get a new
patients
doctor.
stay, ideally.
Yeah, the patients stay and you get a new doctor rather than...
Ideally, yeah.
Other questions? Can you just outline maybe briefly, maybe there's not an opportunity for brevity, but the path to becoming a full CHC?
Yeah, we'd also like to know in detail what
Okay,
that
good.
process entails. We are working with the BC Association of Community Health Centers to understand that process. It is not a public application process. You cannot find the application form anywhere out there. So the general piece that we do not yet meet is we do not have a clear understanding of our community's specific healthcare needs in areas that CHCs are formed to address. For example, if we have needs related to poverty, to mental health, drug addictions, etc., we do not have the data for that to justify some of those criteria that we would need to meet. So one of the things we're interested in doing is a community needs assessment so that we can actually prove that there are certain needs in our community. If we do not meet the need or the specific categories that CHCs are set up for, there's maybe an opportunity to negotiate that with the ministry, but we're just unclear so far on what that looks like. But the ministry is aware, and it has been their funding intention that we would progress towards becoming a community health center, or CHC. So they are aware of it. They're interested in supporting us. They know that that model likely fits our situation in this community better, but the way that they've outlined that model might not quite fit our community needs.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Right. So that community needs assessment is a key piece of.
It could be. The data that we have for the region is 5 to 6 years old. So pre-COVID,
Yeah.
pre all the people who moved here, pre the big wait list on the Health Connect registry. So demographics have shifted and the needs have shifted. So we could use old data, but why? Why, let's actually create services that meet the current needs of the community.
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
That's something we can keep in mind if we can support that in some way as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Really
you
appreciate
so
being here.
much.
Yeah,
This is just really
Yeah.
obviously a massive need in our community, and it's so great that you guys are addressing it. We're trying to address
I
it.
did have one last question. What is the what's the interest been like from practitioners? I mean, it's the doctor shortages and things like that are
We
rampant
have.
in the province. Is there? I guess.
No, it's a good.
Can you give
it's
us
a good
sneak
question.
preview of what you-
We haven't formally begun any recruiting. We have had lots of unsolicited proposals from individuals interested in joining our clinic. The contracts that we have been granted through the ministry are called new to practice, so it means essentially that somebody needs to not bring their existing client list with them. So we will likely be looking for somebody who is either a locum or somebody who works out of a hospital or somebody who is new to the area or newly graduated or has been in practice for a long time. But we need people who come with space
Yeah.
on their list. Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for being here, you guys.
Thank you.
Okay. Reports. Development variance permit application 2712 Dunsmuir Avenue. You're not Malena.
You're not Marlene.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll be presenting this report. Melena's away tonight. So this is a development variance permit application for the big store over on Dunsmuir Avenue, 2712 Dunsmuir. The recommendation is that Council approve a development variance permit application that reduces the required number of off-street parking stalls from 8 to 0, number of commercial loading spaces from 2 to 0, and to change the 7 Class 2 bicycle parking stalls to Class 1. So this report was presented to Council at the last meeting, referred back to staff for some more information about the bicycle parking variance and the use of cash in lieu. I'll just
Rowdies.
pause a minute. Okay, so this report is a little bit different than the last one as we found out some more information and spoke with the applicant. So the variance related to the bicycle parking is not to reduce the number of bicycle parking stalls as was originally presented, but after discussion with the applicant, the new proposal is to have all of the bicycle parking inside the building whereas the zoning bylaw requires some secured inside, which is like for employees and residents, if there were any residential, and then the unsecured, which is sort of like free for all, outside on the street. But because this property is lot line to lot line, that doesn't work. As well, and so the proposal is for them to provide the public bike parking stalls, sort of public, at the store at the sort of public part of the inside of the building, which was sort of their model. They thought that people would be coming in with expensive mountain bikes. They want to bring them with them, and they could just put them there in the store where they're semi-secure. And then they will be providing the bicycle parking stalls in the back in the employee area for employees. So that's the part there that's new. And then related to the cash in lieu, we are able to confirm that the parking cash in lieu that a local government collects can be used for alternative, what's it called? Active transportation infrastructure that supports walking, bicycling, public transit, or other alternative forms of transportation. We are trying to get some more information to understand how we set up the reserve fund. So we actually do need 2 reserve funds, and we only have 1 right now. So vehicle versus active transportation. So council wouldn't be able to buy a bike rack today out of because we need to do some homework on our end about the establishment of the reserve fund, but we do have that other information for you right now. So that's my presentation.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I think that's good clarification. It kind of, the last report seemed like the in-store parking would be used by employees and customers, and therefore would reduce the amount of bike parking. And so it's good to know that they are providing all staff parking in addition to this, and so it isn't a reduction. That's great. And I guess we will need to discuss the future reserve for active transportation infrastructure, because I think that's definitely something that that we should have for this community. Yeah, thank you.
Great.
So, do you have a question?
No. We're just
Okay,
gonna
you
make a
want to move it?
motion there. I'd like to make a motion that council approve the development variance permit application to reduce the number of off-street parking stalls from 8 to 0, the number of commercial loading spaces from 2 to 0, and then change the 7 Class 2 bicycle parking stalls to Class 1 on the property described as Lot B, District Lot 21, Nelson District Plan EPP 61337, otherwise known as 2712 Dunsmuir Avenue.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and resolutions to the AVICC convention.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. So as you'll recall, in December, Rachel presented a report on kind of providing some background information on some options Council had for submitting AVICC resolutions, which ultimately could be lead to UBCM resolutions. So based on Council's direction at that time, went away and did some research in collaboration with the Community Forest Society, who's supporting, we partnered with in the Perseverance Watershed Initiative, as well as our consultant on that project supported this as well. So what we've come back with are 2 draft resolutions for your consideration tonight. One specifically in regards to the Watershed Security Strategy and Fund, the policy that the province is developing right now. And the second is the Managed Forest Council representation, and the Managed Forest Council plays a strong role in a private managed forest land program in the province. And then in conversation with those Perseverance Watershed Initiative partners, we also became aware of opportunities that Council may wish to advocate for the Watershed Security Strategy and Fund at this time, just based on some ministerial mandate letters and some changes there, changing ministers, as well as the upcoming provincial budget process.
Thank you so much for this. It's a really great, thorough report. Questions? Councillor Kittler?
Yeah, thanks for the work on this. I really appreciate the backgrounders there. And I like within the first resolution, just highlighting that it is a different scenario here, southeastern Vancouver Island, and being surrounded by private managed forest lands. I think that a lot of the decision makers, are from interior BC. Don't really understand the relationship with private managed forest lands that we have here on the island. So I think it's really good to highlight that difference, especially when we're talking about future funding opportunities for land acquisition. So that's wonderful. On the second resolution, as I was reading the ask, I was thinking the situation is we're kind of asking for what we already have, because it says, be it resolved that the Private Managed Forest Land Act be amended such that the Managed Forest Land Council must include one member that represents the interests of local government. And currently, Brian Frankel, he was former president of UBCM. He was just replaced last year as president, but he still is a councillor up in Vanderhoof and is on the Private Managed Forest Council. So he is representing local government on that council. So I was thinking about how we might want to amend it or scrap it, but amend it maybe to ask for someone with experience and knowledge around watershed management specific to drinking water, provision of drinking water, because I think that's really what the interest is there, and that's what we're missing, and none of the current members of that council have that background. So that's a possible change that we might want to make, unless you don't want to put forward the resolution. So,
Thoughts on that?
No, I think that's actually quite wise, given that there is a wide variety of local government perspectives, and like you mentioned, being on the island, being surrounded by privately managed forest, it has a much bigger impact on us. So that amendment, I think, is an excellent idea.
thanks.
Yeah, I agree.
If I can just
Go
add
ahead.
a little bit, in the course of this research, one of the concerns was the word "or." So as the act reads, council members appointed by the ministers must be knowledgeable in matters pertaining to either forest management or local government. So one of the things, looking at this through a more long-range lens, is there is the risk that there could be no local government representation, although there currently is. That word "or" would potentially preclude even having any. So in recognition of us trying to be kind of as provincial in scope as possible, recognizing this ultimately hopefully will go to UBCM, that's why we chose to try and use this language, which would at least improve upon the status quo and not get too into detail. Now, certainly I think this option that Councillor Kettler's tabling would be even more specific and more in terms of our interests, so wouldn't necessarily say it's not a good idea, but that's the background on how we arrived at this.
Yeah, so I wonder too, I was thinking the same thing, and then going along those same lines, like looking for someone who's got that watershed experience. So maybe we change the resolution to say we want someone from local government. So two things I'm thinking. The first is we want someone from local government who has private managed forest lands in their. So we ask specifically for private managed forest lands representation, municipal representation, or we ask for both someone with the expertise that you mentioned, as well as a local government, a must for local government representation. Does that make sense?
So you're saying like if this counselor from Vanderhoof only had crown land within his jurisdiction, then he wouldn't sort of qualify, that he would need private managed forest land within the jurisdiction? Is that?
Yeah, like, so we either ask for specific private managed forest land municipal representation, and that could be in addition to what's already in the outline of the Managed Forest Council. So it would be that one position, or an additional position with specific private managed forest land. And then, in addition, potentially, someone with watershed experience, or drinking water, watershed experience, I guess, would be more specific.
I was going to say, I definitely think you want the watershed, because there are local governments that have private managed, like, but it wouldn't necessarily get
Be
your
in their
needs met with,
watershed.
so I think you need the watershed as well.
Yeah.
Having both, yeah, I agree. Because there's probably private managed forest lands in pretty much everybody's jurisdiction. It could be a tiny little component, and that would still allow them in there. But having it within their drinking watershed catchment would be something I think would be
It's very,
important to
it's a
capture.
very specific ask, though.
It really is. Which,
So-
yeah.
A fair bit of discussion about trying to achieve what we understood council's
Yeah.
previous direction to be, and trying to make it generic enough that it would be considered by a wide number
Yeah.
of local governments and achieve its intended advocacy purpose.
Yeah.
And that's, we've put forward a proposal that didn't seem perfect, but it seemed like we were honing in on something, improving upon the status quo.
Yeah.
Could we
It's
put
very,
from
very
Vancouver
close.
Island on there too? or something?
It could
Cumberland.
simply, sorry to interrupt, it could just simply say one member that represents the interest of local government with, like, and specifically with watershed or watershed municipal
Forest lands within their
an
watershed.
asset or something, like it could be.
Drinking water.
Drinking watershed, I think, because watershed's pretty.
Because it is interest.
Yeah.
That is a good, but then you could say specifically watershed
Dri-
knowledge or something like that
I'd-
would be an asset.
The drinking watershed would be critical.
Yeah.
Like the drinking, because there's there are a fair number in the interior which do have some of that, and they've managed to capture. What am I trying to say? They've managed to work locally with private lands. I've known a few from the Forestry Service, so if it's just watershed, I don't think you'll get that, especially if they don't use that as their drinking water source. So.
Yeah, I think with some direction from council about just incorporating that, we could wordsmith a resolution and meet those objectives.
Okay, so are we just wanting to ask for the experience, or are we gonna, the drinking watershed representation, or do we just want anyone with drinking watershed experience? Do they need to be a local government representative? Do you see what I mean? Do we want those two things in one person, or do we
I think what Kevin said about ensuring that there is local government representation, because now it's or you can have forestry experience or local government experience, and so just we're asking as must include one member, so
Yeah.
that's sort of changing the legislation. That's a request
Yeah.
to change the legislation to ensure that there is local government experience, which I think is important.
Yeah.
But also, I think we could just wordsmith the watershed interest in there on top of the local government.
You might be narrowing it down to about 2 people. I
Yeah,
don't know
not
how
the
many.
back, not that they have to be experts in the subject matter, but that they are from a jurisdiction that draws from that.
That has that
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
So,
in addition to representing the interests of local government? Yes?
So just for clarity, the board would still be made up of 5, as I understand it. How it's set up now, it's made up of 5. There's 2 appointees of the private managed forest companies.
Yeah.
2 appointees by the minister. So one of the minister's appointees would have to be representing local government in addition to watershed protection interests.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Yeah. Because if we
That-
add
that's
another,
enough direction that we can
Yep.
think which exact words go on the resolution are submitted, I think, by early February, right?
Yeah.
I think we have about a week and a half to.
Okay, excellent.
Just to add to that, because I think just because they're representing the interest of drinking water watershed local governments doesn't mean that they have to have specific, like you wouldn't be picking from a small pool. That it would just mean that they are a local government representative with and that's their mandate is to represent.
Correct. Presumably they'd have smart staff like we do here that
Right.
would help back them up.
Okay, so there's a resolution there. If that's all the discussion. Sorry, there's a recommendation there.
Yep.
And I need a motion.
Can we do the submission of these, even though you're going to be adjusting it?
I think maybe a resolution to amend the Managed Forest Council resolution to consider
First.
community drinking water interests in addition to the resolutions that we have
'Kay.
in the report. Yep.
You want to have a go at that, Councillor Kettler?
Yeah. That council submit the resolutions attached to this report dated January 16th, 2023 to ABICC, Watershed Security Fund, Strategy and Fund, and B, the Managed Forest Council with the amendment of the watershed drinking water interests
Does that
added
work?
to the resolution. And that council send letters to the province or provincial ministers of water, land, and resource stewardship, emergency management and climate readiness, and environment and climate change strategy, and the MLA for Mid-Island Pacific Rim to advocate for funding and support for village watershed protection initiatives as part of the province's watershed security strategy and fund, and the 2023 provincial budget development process.
Thank you. Seconder?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you so much. And I think that's our, those people will also form our ask for UBCM meetings in the future, potentially. Okay, financial plan, committee of the whole report. This is the new on-table report, everybody. So just for background, we spent, I don't know how many hours on Wednesday going through and making our decisions around the budget. And these are the recommendations coming out of that process. They have been amended from the original agenda. If you're out there, Cumberland, looking at that, there is an on-table.
3 full days of budget.
There was 3 full days of budget, with the final day being the very meaty one, or the very decision-oriented one. So that's where this is coming from. Michelle, did you want to speak to it too?
Yeah, if the only thing I just want to say is this is a list of what we tracked during the last meeting of your decisions. And so if council actually has reviewed it and they have any other items that's been missed or they want different wording here, now's your time to actually to make that change, and then you can confirm this resolution, because then that's what will actually go forward to the public package on February 6th, and then further financial plan bylaw readings. And then, yeah, that's about it, I think, because you do have the financial plan bylaw policies that you did review, and if you just want them to stay as is for now, and then I can come back with a report to discuss pieces of it if you'd like at a different time, and you can put some thought into wording for your bylaw.
Yeah.
This the $20,000 ask, taxes in lieu, isn't reflected in this. Is that correct? We'd have to find something out of host amenity funds to add to this particular budget if we can.
The most recent.
The most recent ask
Yes,
this
you
evening.
would need to deal with that differently, and that would likely, if council wanted to look at that, they can come back at
And
the
have an
next
amendment.
meeting
Okay.
and direct staff, and I could include that in a financial plan bylaw because it hasn't come forward yet. But if it's not right away, then it would just be a financial plan amendment at a different time.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, questions or anything? Comments? Okay, let's make the recommendation.
Do we have to read all of it?
No, no. Just what do you want, Rachel? The beginning part? Just the beginning?
Just the opening paragraph there as set out in the report.
As set out in the list, yeah, okay.
All right. I'll make a motion to make this following specific change. Council make, excuse me. I move that council make the following specific changes to the draft 2023 to 2027 detailed budgets and present the proposed 2023 to 2027 detailed budget package and a proposed 2023 to 2027 financial plan bylaw to the public at the February 6, 2023 Village Hall meeting, so that the tax revenue increase for 2023 is 6.1% to existing 2022 taxpayers, with the recommendations following below.
Thank you.
0.16%.
6.16. Is that what I said?
You just said
Close.
6.1.
Oh, sorry,
Forgot the
6.16%.
Okay, seconder?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Good job. And thanks so much to staff as well for those 3 excellent days of conversation and consideration. Okay. Bylaws, nothing. New business, nothing. Notices, motions, and announcements. Board of Variance, January 25th at 12 p.m. Council Chambers, Village Hall Financial Plan, February 6, 2023, 7 p.m. in Council Chambers. Please come. This is how we spend your tax dollars. If you're interested in what we are planning to do for the next several years, this is how you find out. And then Advisory Planning Commission, February 9th at 4 p.m. in Council Chambers. Any questions? Nobody's even here.
Yeah, just wanted to give an apology. I will be away for the Village Hall on February 6th. I will be out of province for that.
No questions?
Not quite yet, but we might wait a moment longer.
We need Jeopardy music or something to
We
play
do.
too.
Somebody should put that on their phone so we can do it. Yeah.
Question has just come in. Does the financial plan include costs of the replaced emergency culvert on Royston Road?
Go for it, Michelle.
No, it would be an emergency expenditure that's just come up, and that would be a budget amendment. And we do have the ability to do that in our policies.
It actually happened during the final budget meeting, so we were not able to include it. It was sort of too late. That's it. All right, a motion to move to closed, please.
I'll move that council close the meeting to the public pursuant to Section 90 of the Community Charter to consider labor relations or other employee relations.
Seconder?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. And a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Thank you.